we can somewhat let the broader American public off the hook. It's not their job to manage our infrastructure. They don't have the spreadsheets of the cash flow, a tally of the cost of maintenance, the present condition of these systems, and all the other blinking red lights on the dashboard of America's cities. Polls have shown that Americans want infrastructure maintained more than they want these systems expanded. What should baffle us, however, is how professionals and decision-makers are so possessed by faith in infrastructure spending. Cities with a mind-boggling backlog of unfunded road maintenance routinely go out and build new roads. Places with pipes crumbling and pumps failing from lack of maintenance give incentives to developers to build more pipes and pumps for the public to maintain. How could they be so myopic, so lacking in introspection, to intentionally add more water to their already capsizing ship? It's easy to assume that those involved in these decisions are acting in their own self-interest, but this is more than just ribbon cuttings or kickbacks, and it's more than job security for the engineer, planners, and the other city-building professionals who do this work. I will not deny that personal benefit is a seductive reinforcement to their thinking, but the intellectual capture of the belief in building infrastructure goes much deeper. This also can't solely be attributed to the pyramid scheme nature of our development pattern, the cognitive discounting that prompts us to highly value the cash benefits today, while ignoring the long-term financial consequences of our decisions. Even when the negative financial math on a project is easily discernible, even when the cash payout isn't there, public officials often vote, with the recommendation of their professional staff, to move ahead with infrastructure spending. The ultimate victory of any ideology is to no longer be considered an ideology, merely truth. Our collective belief in the power of infrastructure spending is now so deeply embedded within our society that we struggle to identify it as belief, let alone systematically question it. We take it as truth, unequivocally. A cult is a collection of people having a misplaced or excessive admiration for a person or thing. Since the end of World War II, America's leadership class has grown to be an infrastructure cult. The American Society of Civil Engineers. The American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, is the most authoritative, prestigious, and oft-quoted organization on North America infrastructure spending. Their periodic report cards routinely score U.S. infrastructure at just above failing. With the enthusiastic support of contractors, developers, trade unions, and others involved in the business of construction, the ASCE regularly calls for large increases in all levels of infrastructure spending. They boldly cite the obvious benefits of more infrastructure, claims that are parroted nearly unquestioned by politicians and media outlets. For example, in 2011, as governments everywhere were having their budgets hammered by the lingering effects of the housing crisis that began 3 years earlier, the ASCE published a report called Failure to Act, an analysis of the economic impacts of infrastructure investment trends. In this report, the ASCE detailed the hundreds of billions our failing infrastructure is costing American families and businesses. At that point, ASCE estimated that families and businesses had lost $130 billion due just from deficiencies in transportation systems. Over the next decade, an additional $430 billion would be lost by businesses and $482 billion by families, all due to our failure to make the proper investments in transportation infrastructure. Taken cumulatively, this is a loss just over $1 trillion in a decade. To avoid this loss, and to reach what the ASCE has called minimum tolerable conditions on the nation's highway, bridge, and transit investments, the Failure to Act report indicates that an additional $220 billion must be spent annually going forward. That's $2.2 trillion in additional infrastructure spending over the coming decade. Let me summarize what you've just heard. The American Society of Civil Engineers suggests that the federal government, on behalf of the American people, spend $2.2 trillion